Hello everyone, this is your Plagued, and welcome to Soviet Republic Workers and Resources. Today I will be showcasing how badly I am at planning and creating a successful city in this game. If you haven't heard of Soviet Republic Workers and Resources before, then you should know that it is a city builder game focused on creating a city where you have to control every little thing in that city. And if you haven't already guessed, it has some communist aspects. So, let's start a new game. What I am doing here is changing the difficulty settings of the game to the most difficult that it can get. However, I am turning off earthquakes and increasing the population because it can make it more manageable for me, as I haven't played the game on the hardest difficulty yet. For instance, I've never used realistic water, the realistic police simulation, or even vehicle damage or complex education before. This will all create the most interesting circumstances for this video, as I hope you enjoy. Okay, so what I'm looking for right now are two custom houses so that I can use both my NATO money and my rubles. However, it is crucial that I find the two close to a small town or city so that I may have a cheap labor source and I don't have to pay for them. One more thing. I have to find some flat land as well because without that, I can't feed my people or create the perfect city. For instance, this is the perfect pre-made city to start with, as it has a pre-built cathedral which people in this game appreciate, and it is also next to a highway, yet it is too far from a customs house to buy materials. So this area is perfect. Two different custom houses, flat land, and a small village nearby. All that we need to do is start a city with a coal deposit. So as you can see here, I am using the coal mine to skim the area for any good coal deposits, and hopefully be able to set up a small town near there. If you see here, the coal mine has a quality of source, and that tells us if there's any coal nearby. And the more green or yellow dots, the better that deposit is. I have now placed the coal mine in a place that I have deemed best for the coal mining operation. However, it looks like the coal mine is a bit too far from the customs house, and the amount of wasted gas that we would use going from point A to point B would cost us millions, and we can't spare any pennies with our small ruble supply and the little amount of dollars that we were given at the start of the game. And I can't forget that I have to process the coal ore into a finer, more usable coal for burning to generate stuff that my people would need, like electricity and heating for my homes. We should all know that the people can't have any luxury such as ownership. No, that would be too good, and that would mean less money going into my expansive pocket. What I've done here is laying a coal processing plant for the future of my city. Once we get the more expensive stuff created in the factories, like food and waste management, then we can come back to this area and focus on building it all up and making it its own town, which will be a good source of revenue for my republic. It's all about planning, or else the 5-year plan will fail. If you want a strong and healthy industrial revolution, you're going to want coal and gravel because these can create cement, heating, electricity. They are also used in the production of chemicals, concrete, asphalt, prefab panels, and more. So it's very important to find a source of coal and make sure that you don't build on top of it because that can just ruin everything. Speaking of planning, I have to plan out where my construction will be taking place, so I chose a flat area right next to the customs house because that's where I will be getting most of my materials from, except labor. That, of course, will have a more hands-off approach. So I found a nice little village somewhat close to where I want to build my new city, and for these people to work in construction, I have to place down a bus stop for them to walk to. If there are any houses that don't have a blue dotted line connecting to it, then they won't be able to work in construction, and that's just no good. Here I'm connecting the bus stop to the main road so that the buses can pick up the workers. So to set up a prospering city, you need people and places for them to work, or else they're just going to be lazy. So I'm building a farm to try and produce some raw goods like crops. This I can then turn into food, alcohol, and fabric. But I first want to try and get water figured out. I haven't really dealt with water before, so I'm going to see if I can figure it out. Okay, so now that that's all done, I'm gonna have to start designing a new city with lots of housing. Dirt poor apartment complexes, to be completely honest. But they're gonna have to do the job. For now. I also need to set up a house of culture, a bar, sport, a shop for clothing, electronics, and groceries. And I need to plan for some more city. Now what I'm gonna plan is the main workspace of the city. That's right, factories. We need those factories to make the magical change from dirt poor raw materials to gold rich processed goods. Money. Okay, so if I want a city, there would have to be some sort of garbage service. So I'm going to have to import those vehicles, such as garbage trucks. But those use fuel, and I don't want to have to pay for that. Alright, so I think that I'm ready to start the building process. So to get started on that, we need a whole lot of vehicles, like buses, cement mixers, and even trucks. Now that I have vehicles, I need a gas station for them to fuel up, and a gas delivery service to supply the gas to the location, so that way there's gas at the gas station, which is pretty important.